I am a young Gen Xer, right? Like, I graduated college early. I'm a child prodigy burnout. I work 80 hours a week, whatever. But, like, I started working in politics when I was 14, and, like, this stuff matters to me. And I watch you guys, and, like, I would say I'm pretty much on par, you know, article head, etc. Like, at this point, how do we just not become entirely black-pilled? You organize, but how is my generation, from your point of view, supposed to be sustaining hope for the future of this country or things in general in such a kind of seemingly dark timeline?
I mean, it's not an unreasonable question. And all I can tell you is that the only thing I can give you, honestly, is like, I think, an insufficient answer in that nothing's going to happen once you take that black pill. Right. At any time, anybody can make the decision to just avoid this stuff because it is depressing. It appears hopeless. There is no sort of clear path to a better situation. And I mean, at any time you can make that decision. I think you have to make the emotional and intellectual decision to say, like, I'm going to ignore that outlook because one never knows, which is true. But then the other thing I would say too is that, like, it's a good time to get more involved in, like, some function of organizing, right? Because
although your 80-hour work week might be difficult, but
maybe.
I never sleep. I also am, on my DSA's labor board, etc.
Okay. I mean, I think that, like, maybe at work or maybe even just focus on, one relationship that you're going to try and develop in service of, like, sort of broadening your network of people, because
my coworkers are just all a spreadsheet, man, all from home. But I guess the follow up, and this is the last thing I'll say, is, like, it feels like everyone else is already black-pilled, man, like, or they just never cared in the first place. Yeah. And it's very frustrating, even out of college, to get constantly blown off as, like, an idealist or overstressing yourself out about these things. And it's like,
it can feel alienating.
We're having a mass shooting every weekend, and it's, like, very alienating to be the only person aware of the suffering on many levels around you.
Well, the only upside, I understand that. I mean, certainly, like, when I started at Air America, like, everyone around me was, for the most part, was like, what are you doing? And it was, I think people found me insufferable at, and wasn't invited out socially as much as I had been. But the upside, I can tell you, is, if you're looking for any type of, like, positive, like, silver lining out of that situation,
yes,
the more people are sitting on the sideline, the more influence that you can have. I mean, the reality is that most massive social and political change takes place with a very, very small, with an impetus from a very small, relatively small group of people in the country. Like, you don't need 51% of the people to create real change in this country. 5-10% of the country pushing for something can really change the direction of things.
It's like, I just want someone to talk about, Nancy Pelosi flying to Taiwan with, and no one gives a shit.
Discord, man.
That's true.
Yeah, look.
Go into our Discord, majority Discord. There's a lot of people, I imagine, right now. I just saw an IM that just said, where is it? Tack thumb. Nancy Pelosi is as much of a narcissist as Donald Trump. Hard to argue.
Yeah, I know you guys are out there, so yeah, I've been shy, but maybe I'll join the Discord.
It's a good idea.
But anyways, thank you so much for
Art.
your time.
Have a good one. Hang in there.
You're like my internet dad, so
There you go. There you go.
have a good one.
Bye-bye.
You're not old. It's fine.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice.
Chapo had a good show on the Black Hammers recently, but they talked about like caring this much about politics puts you in a small subset of people. That's always been the case, though.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at history, you can get some lessons that put it in perspective. That there's plenty of people we recognize as either making strides for progress or keeping the light on, and we see the value of that. But also, if you look at history, it's like now's bad. It's been bad, like in history, right? Like it's always been horrible.
I mean, there has been like some brief respites. But for the most part, yeah, it's like
this bad.
If you care about progressive change, there's been times where it's looked significantly bleaker.
Mm-hmm.
Significantly.
And I just think it's unique in terms of maybe the level of despair, given the fact that, yes, you could have been, a socialist or a communist during a certain period and fighting for progressive change. But it's also that the United States empire is on such a rapid decline that I think it feels like more existential. It's not just fighting within the confines of a wealthy nation that's trying to surge forward. It's just everyone, my generation, understands that this is we're never getting back to where we were as a country on the international stage. And it's just it's a climate change level of despair, I think, and it's also a post 9/11 level of despair that I think makes it distinct.
Well, and also,
but not
like,
unique.
I mean, I think the structural things, like none of us buy a house. Like my parents are buying a house by this point. Like,
right.
And instead we have a whole bunch of new kinds of media that allow us to be hyper attentive to where things are failing in the world. I mean, but I would say like Twitter in 1942 or Twitter in 1855 would be absolutely astonishingly portal into hell.
Yeah. 1864 would be pretty upsetting. 1962. I mean, there's.
We talk about that awful video of the, that we won't ever play, but that war crime of the Russian soldier castrating the Ukrainian prisoner of war. I mean, if we had Twitter back then, that would be
Civil War. Like,
how many of those would we have?
Well, we talk about like bombing hospitals, right? In wars, which I don't think these are. Well, anyway, we were in Vicksburg. The Union bombed hospitals of the Confederates, right? Like.
But I would also just say to the caller, I agree with Emma that for us, like, millennials or even Gen Z, like she is 20 years old, that the monolithic stuff seems it can make you panic. It can make you insanely anxious, like climate change and kind of the erosion of our democracy that we've seen. But I would point people to our last Wednesday show when we had Daniel Gerardo from the Kickstarter Union. She said her employees are spreadsheets. So are theirs. I mean, Kickstarter's a remote workplace, and they digitally organize. And Vincent Fertuccio, the other organizer of the protest at the congressional baseball game, he's a year younger than you. Like she is obviously actively working to make changes in her granular community, and I think that's where you can derive some hope and some solace that we are not going to be able to change the world writ large. Well, but you can change things around you if you feel empowered in doing so and feel galvanized by doing so.
Right.
Yeah, I think the point made was like you don't know what's going to happen, and you definitely don't. But whether like the revolution is 100 years off or 5 years, I think the work is pretty much the same.